I'm talking as a member of Pakistani public who's not part of the government.
Well, you're talking as a responsible leader in Pakistan, a man who aspires to actually lead the country.
Exactly, exactly. And now, how would I feel as a... But I'm a Pakistani citizen, but my country has given 35,000 people dead in a war we had nothing to do with. $70 billion lost to the economy when total aid has been $20 billion. How would I feel that my ally, who we are fighting for, does not trust us, instead comes and conduct the operation itself?
How does it help?
Should they not have told our government? If it's either it's an ally or it's not an ally.
How does it help in terms of the future stability of Pakistan for you to tell the Americans that you want to see them completely out of your country in terms of intelligence cooperation, in terms of their anti-terror activities in Pakistan? You want to cut all ties, and you believe that will lead to greater stability, when the Americans are alleging right now that the ISI, the Pakistani intelligence agency, is actively helping the Haqqani network and other militants do their deeds inside Afghanistan?
First of all, if this myth being spun that 4,000 or 5,000 Haqqani Taliban is the reason why the US is not succeeding in Afghanistan. 140,000 US soldiers in Afghanistan, greatest military machine in history, is not succeeding because of these 4,000 or 5,000 fighters that are supposed to be holed up in North Waziristan. Does that make sense? That's number one. But I just come back to that.
Does America not have a right, in terms of self-defense, to pursue these people if the Pakistani government will not pursue them?
But are we Pakistanis not allowed to criticize American policy? Are slaves allowed to just say...
Does the United States have a right of self-defense if these people are not going to be rounded up and detained by the Pakistani government? Does the US not have a right to do it?
But does the Pakistani government also have not any semblance of sovereignty in our country, that maybe they are fighting this war on terror, which is why 35,000 people have died? Can they not fight it their own way? Now, I come back...
Their own way brings us back to the quote from David Cameron of last year. Consistently, the Pakistani has looked both ways, he said, on the issue of terrorism.
God, if I was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, I would have immediately told them that, look, we will fight this war our own way. We don't want any interference. We don't want your money. We don't want your aid. Look, it doesn't mean cutting the relationship with the Americans. It means we will fight it our own way.
Frankly, it does, because it takes two. And if you had your way, the Americans would cut their relationship with Pakistan. It's quite clear. And that would involve billions of dollars of aid at a time when Pakistan, goodness knows, has every reason to need that aid.
Pakistan has lost $70 billion, the people of Pakistan, in this war. This was published by our own. This current government has published in the economic survey. Total aid is $220 billion. This aid is destroying us. Look, I would tell the Americans that what do they want from Pakistan? There should be no terrorism from our soil. That's all they should want. We'll do it our way. If I am perceived as a puppet of the Americans, it takes away my credibility and ability to fight terrorism. Because of me, there will be more people picking up guns. Look, puppets create terrorists. They create radicals. If it was a sovereign government, we would deal it with our own way. But the Americans, surely, would they not want a Pakistan government which would ensure no terrorism from our soil? Would they not want that?
However you measure it, economic performance, political stability, internal security, the Pakistani state is failing its people. Why? And what prospect is there of radical reform from within? Well, my guest today would dearly like to be Pakistan's agent of change. For 15 years, former cricket star Imran Khan has led a reformist political party. He says his country has now reached a tipping point comparable to the Arab Spring. But are Pakistanis ready to put their faith in Imran Khan? Imran Khan, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
It is 15 years since you founded your party, Tehreek-e-Insaf. The greatest performance you ever had at the polls was to win one parliamentary seat, and yet you now say that the ideas represented by your party, their time has come. Why do you say that?
Well, that was 9 years back when we contested our last election. And the party was only 5 years old. And obviously, not equipped to contest the general elections. Now, 9 years down the line, it is a party which is now spreading faster than any other party in Pakistan. In fact, other parties are going down, Tehreek-e-Insaf is going up, and it is the first party of choice for the young in Pakistan. And all opinion polls are now saying this.
Yeah, I've had you before saying you shouldn't believe opinion polls because you say, of course, in the past, your poll performance was terrible. Why should we believe opinion polls now, particularly in a country like Pakistan, where they tend to overestimate the importance of the urban, the educated?
Opinion polls are an indication. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can translate them into success, but it is an indication of the popularity of the party. For instance, in 2008, the opinion polls did actually get things right. More or less, what they predicted, the sort of seat arrangement, is actually what happened. So there's no, if we can now get ourselves organized, we have the public support to convert this support into votes.
And yet that optimism works against the grain of your basic political message, which is that Pakistan, and this is a phrase you've used, is essentially run by a political mafia. You seem to believe that virtually every public office holder in Pakistan is a crook. So why should a temporary rise in the polls change that basic reality?
Well, let me just give you the statistics presented to the Supreme Court by the Election Commission, of course, on our petition. Out of the 80 million registered voters in Pakistan in 2008, 37 million voters were fraudulent, bogus, didn't exist. And this has been thrown out by the Supreme Court.
But aren't you making my point for me? If this is the system that you are trying to break into, and indeed bring down, it is going to take something extraordinary. Just believing that getting your message out to the Pakistani people and campaigning in the next election due in 2013, that isn't going to cut it, because the system doesn't allow people like you to win.
But, Stephen, this is exactly what I'm saying, why I'm optimistic. Because an independent Supreme Court has thrown out 45% of the registered vote, which was bogus. So, and they've asked the Election Commission to register another 35 million new voters, which were not registered before. Young voters are to be registered. 45% of the vote thrown out, so that's where the optimism lies. You actually might have the semblance of a free and fair election because the Supreme Court is independent.
Well, you have pointed to certain changes we've seen in the last few years. In 2007, for example, there was a huge political outcry after Musharraf, president at the time, fired the Chief Justice. There was a lawyers' movement in response. You took to the streets with many others. But I've been looking back at what actually happened, and at the time, for example, you mounted a hunger strike. You said that you would not take food or water until the Chief Justice was reinstated. The fact is, that hunger strike lasted all of a couple of days. There is a question about how far you're prepared to take your political movement.
Well, thank God it lasted only a couple of days, because without food and drink, I mean, you know, you can have a hunger strike without food. But I didn't realize without drink, you just go down very quickly. So thank God they let me out. But
it wasn't good for your credibility, though, was it?
No, but listen, what was the hunger strike for? Because Musharraf had put the opposition in jail, put me in jail, lawyers in jail, other opposition under house arrest, leaders. And what he hoped was that he would just go through elections quickly and then come back again as president and have rigged the elections to get his party in. Now, the hunger strike was to really bring people back to the real thing, which was the Chief Justice. Because the election campaign would have made people forget the Chief Justice movement. But unfortunately, there was a counter-revolution. We were let down because the boycott, which is what we proposed until the Chief Justice was reinstated, sadly that boycott was broken by the main party which was leading us, PMLN.
Well, so let's not get too stuck on the detail. I suppose the point I'm making, and you raise it in this political memoir you've written, is that you now see parallels. The situation in Pakistan, you believe, is somewhat comparable to that in the Arab world, and that the Pakistani people, just like those of maybe Egypt or Syria, are prepared to take to the streets and take serious risks in their pursuit of political reform and change. I just wonder what your evidence is for the Pakistani people being in that place right now.
Stephen, I think Pakistan is ahead of the Middle East in terms of our democratic evolution. Our lawyers' movement was our Arab Spring, where actually people rose behind a Chief Justice but wanted exactly the same things as those people in the Middle East, the youth in the Middle East, which is democracy, representation, a representative government. It's exactly what we wanted.
But with all due respect, you know, we've talked about your hunger strike that lasted 2 days. In Damascus, we see people who day after day after day are prepared to go on the streets and brave the bullets with their passionate demand for political change. I don't see that equivalent in Pakistan today.
No, but Stephen, we actually got our objective, which was the Chief Justice. We got him reinstated. He was again kicked out. Again, we got him reinstated. And today, we probably are one of the only Muslim countries, or 2 or 3 Muslim countries, where the Supreme Court is genuinely independent. But this was our people's power. Now, of course, there was a counter-revolution, which is happening in the Middle East. We had the status quo come back. You know, the elections, they contested the elections, and so therefore they reimposed the same system and are trying to demolish the independent Supreme Court. But the people got him back, and it's an evolving process right now.
I mean, I suppose the question I'm driving at is how big a price are you, Imran Khan, prepared to pay in the coming months and years in pursuit of your desire for political change in your country?
Stephen, if you're in politics right now in Pakistan and you're a political leader, you have to be prepared to pay the ultimate price.
What do you mean by that?
In other words, your life is at risk. All the political leaders barely go out in public. I'm probably the only one who actually goes out in public because the society is so polarized right now. There's so much lawlessness in Pakistan. There is no rule of law. And as I said before, criminals are running the country. So therefore, you know, if you're in politics and going out in public and take an anti-status quo stand, you have to be prepared for the ultimate.
This brings me, in a way, to a rather personal reflection on your life. And you've opened yourself up to it because you've begun to write about it. That is, some of the personal decisions you've taken in the course of your post-cricket life and the way